All right, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High and His only begotten Son, call Layim La Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and others, great millstone who root and teach well, Wa Barakatham, unto the whole full elect. All right, now today through the Spirit, I want to go into a video entitled a message to non-prophets, ultimately a message to believers. You see, because happened to be listening to videos earlier, and what prompted me to want to go into the video is because I saw the video of the thing that Captain Zariak was saying, and it made me just think about like how really ultimately the Lord is really going to be delivering women because of how they dealt with the prophets. You see, that's like when you look into the scriptures, that's a woman made it because of how they treated, how they dealt with the men, which proves to you that that's what the Lord is looking for when you deal with when the Lord deals with a woman, He's looking for how you treat your husband. Like that's why in First Peter the 3rd chapter, that's why Sarah is noted about, because it speaks on how she obeyed Abraham and called him Lord. I believe it's 1 Peter 3 and the 5th verse. You see, it speaks on how the woman's supposed to model themselves after Sarah. That's what made the Lord deal with Sarah, because how good she treated Abraham. You see, and you have the account when Rahab helped the men that were trying to spy out her land. She was a heathen, and the Lord allowed her to make it because ultimately she helped the men of Israel. You see, so she got spared. Rahab was a harlot as well, but she allowed the men to hide there, and they took over that land. That's in the book of Joshua. So when the Lord deals with a woman, what makes the Lord pleased with a woman is by how she deals with the prophets, how she deals with the men. You see, which proves to you that that doctrine that Zariak is saying is false, because every woman that's noted in the scriptures, she's noted by how she dealt with the men. Like look at even Judith. It speaks on how she was a great wife and she hadn't been with no other men beside her husband. Then you look at Susanna. Her husband was alive. She was brought up real good, what's the word? She was real fair, but she also had morals though. See, she was what's the word I'm looking for? Modest. You see, she was very modest. You see, so she was a good wife towards her husband. She was real modest. So when you look at the women that's noted in the scriptures, a lot of times they're noted because of how they dealt with the prophets or how they dealt with the men. So as a believer, because not everybody has a lot of teaching the word. You should desire to, but those who don't have a lot to be able to teach. The Lord is going to look at how you dealt with the governing body, how you dealt with the men. That's why when you read Yahushua, I know Yahushua spoke of it in Matthew 25. He spoke on how you treated, you gave me water when I was thirsty, and when I was hungry, you gave me food and you put clothes on my back. And what he meant was, he was being symbolic of he was ultimately saying, like, the way you treat his men that serve him, that's how you treated him. And then we read on down, it'll say that ultimately how you'll be rewarded greatly for how you dealt with one of the little ones. So one of the Lord's servants is prophets. So whatever ability or measure you have, doing well towards the Lord's men, that'll lead to people making it. That's why you have a big ginormous amount of Israelites who they may not, or it might be certain guys that believe at the last hour. They may not have. They ultimately didn't fully come in. The Lord didn't put the Spirit on them to actually start serving them, but they heard of it, and they may have not came against it. They may have treated the prophets good. They may help the prophets in a time of, in a time of adversity come. They may help a prophet out, and the Lord will deliver you know, certain believers because of that reason. You see? So as somebody, mainly, you know, it's gonna be a lot of women that's believers. There's more women than men, and you know, 4 women gonna take hold of 1 man. So a lot of that great multitude is gonna be women and families, but it's gonna be certain men that that be of that too. So somebody that's a believer, you know, one of the important keys that you should focus in on is how you treat the prophets. You know what I'm saying? Being respectful. If you're under the comment board, you know, if you have the measure, if you have the ability to, you know what I'm saying, giving some type of alms. You know, if you're good, if you know, good at something, you know what I'm saying, basically helping out, like learn how to make garments. If you're good with designing things, maybe if there's a camp, which there's camps everywhere, so wherever area you live in, you know how to make clean stuff, you know, make a healthy dish, you know what I'm saying, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Just ultimately, whatever thing you can do, you just do it. And you treat the prophet as well. Because there's another scripture that says, ultimately, he that giveth a prophet water shall receive a prophet's reward, loosely paraphrasing. So the way you treat the Lord's servants, the prophets, can dictate how the Lord will treat you. Because there were certain kings that you know, did the prophets well, and the Lord allowed them to have an alright little time period when they reigned. So that's those were heathens. So how much more the Lord's people? You see? But on the flip side, what you don't want to do is you don't want to be one of those people that are coming against the Lord's true servants. You see? You don't want to offend one of his little ones, because it says better if a millstone was cast into your net and you were thrown into the middle of a body of water than to offend one of his prophets. So you know you don't want to offend nobody. Speaking of myself first and foremost, you don't want to offend no brothers. And if the offense does happen, you know, you apologize. You see, like that's the mindset. Like, as a believer, you should focus in on, especially women, mainly. Like how you treat men could be the way you make it. That's why Paul even said it, and he spoke on it. Peter spoke on it in 1 Peter, and then Paul spoke on it in 1 Corinthians 7 chapter. He speaks on how unbelieving. Really, they both said the same thing. That's how you know it's the spirit. But basically, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, Paul was basically speaking about how if your husband seeks to dwell with you and he doesn't believe, you still stay with him. You know, and you still be a woman, because the Lord is going to look at how you treat your husband, and that's how you're deemed as righteous as a woman, by you being a good servant, you know, and being a good wife unto your man, whether he's a believer or not. And the Lord could end up having mercy on him and allow him to believe in the last, because there's going to be Israelites that believe at the last hour. So whatever man you have, you stick with him. You know, and you just be a good wife unto him. The Lord isn't looking for the woman to come and bring out scriptures, go to the camera, or anything like that. He just wants you to treat the men correctly and follow the order. When you look at the woman that made it, that's what they did. That's why the scripture saying in 1 Timothy, when Paul said it, women shall be saved in childbearing. All right. Look at the Noah when they built the ark. Their wives got delivered to bear children. You see, they followed Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons. So that's what's going to lead to a woman making it, is by her being a good servant or being a good helper to a man. You see? So that's what you should focus in on as a woman if you're a believer, because that doctrine that they're teaching is completely off, and it basically is just showing that they're ultimately trying to get the bag, get to that money, but ultimately that's completely off, because the women are not to be worshipped or bowed down to. The women that made it, they were the complete opposite. They weren't being worshipped. They weren't doing no things like that. They came in a spirit of having humility, and they treated the men that they dealt with good, and that's what led to the Lord having grace and mercy upon them. You see? And even for male, let's say if it's somebody that's it's gonna be men that may help out the prophets, and the Lord will deliver them for that. So even as a man, you know what I'm saying, that focusing on that, For this is for the non-prophets. Of course, you're a prophet, the ultimate alm. If the Lord gave you the measure to be able to teach His word, then you should be teaching. And if you can't teach right now, desiring to be teaching. You see, because this message being published or proclaimed, that's how the spiritual temple is being built up. That's how the Lord is gathering His people by the word going out. So if you are trying to help the Lord gather His people or build that ark, you're supposed to be teaching. You got to publish or proclaim His word. That's what's going to lead to the end happening. When the end comes, that's when the Lord will come back and deliver His elect. You see, so you're supposed to be helping, trying to gather the elect. You see, that's the ultimate alm or love, laying down your life. You see, for the body, for Yahweh Shai. You see, but as for those who don't have a measure, you help out the best way you can. You treat the men of the Lord that teach His word with reverence and respect. And also, if you have, give some tips or whatever the case may be. Just help out whatever way you can. And the Lord's going to have you make it because of how they treated the Lord's servant, how He treated the prophets. They treated the prophets well, so the Lord will allow them, He'll give them grace or give them mercy. You see? So that's something just to keep in your mindset. Because it's many accounts where it happened. Where people treat the prophets good, and then the Lord will allow them to make it because of how they treated the prophets. So you treated my servant well, so I'm gonna allow you to make it. You see? Like another example is Mary Magdalene. You see? I treated Yahweh Shai. Okay, and you can go on and on, so on throughout the scriptures. But ultimately, that's what the Lord, that's charity. It says, above all, have fervent charity. So you show love towards the body. That'll lead to people making it. So as a believer, that's one of the most key things you focus in on. How you treating the Lord's prophets, how you treating His servants. Because the Lord the Lord can have mercy on somebody just because they treated the prophets good. Receive a prophet reward because you gave a prophet, that's the scripture, you gave a prophet water. Or a woman may, help the men of the Lord out. And like Rahab, she helped Joshua's men, and what happened? The Lord gave her grace and mercy. You see? And then look at the other high-ranking women. They were modest, and they did what they were supposed to do. They did good towards men. So guess what? The Lord gave them grace, and they have a name written about them because of how good of a woman they were, how good of a servant they were. Okay, it's not because of them being a woman. It's because of how they treated the men, how they treated the prophets. That led to them, the Lord having grace upon them. You see? Because the woman that didn't do that, like look at Lot's wife, she looked back, she turned back. You see? She got destroyed. So as a woman, and even other believers, one key thing to focus in on is charity, being charitable towards the body. Speaking of myself first and foremost. If you have something you can give or do, then do it, and also just reverencing and treating the men of the Lord with high regard. And the Lord the way you treat them, that's how the Lord will treat you. You see? But that's the point I wanted to go into real quick. The Spirit was on me to just go into a video on that. It's a message to believers. You see? Lord had grace on people, but simply because they were charitable towards His prophets. So that's one thing to keep in mind, for women, believers. You know what I'm saying? How you treat the Lord's men. If you reverence them, and, you help them out. Or let's say if you have a husband that's a prophet, that's a whole other level. Or you might just be you could just be a woman that believes, or whatever the case may be. The way you treat your husband, even though he's not in the truth, that's what the Lord is gonna look at. So the way a woman should focus in on staying in order. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the prophets, and if she has her own husband, especially with her husband, being in order and treating them correctly. That's what the Lord is gonna have grace on a lot of women for. That's gonna make the Lord allow you to make it to bear children. You see? So that's your main focus. And also, for all the believers, the men and women as well, charity. But that's the point I want to touch into, Lord willing. This was edifying. I like to end it off by saying, call Allah, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Workah Kodash, double honor to the apostle elders, great millstone, rule teach well. Till next time, call me Shalom.